The republic is in trouble. This country is in trouble. And the time for excuses is over. No more excuses. No more excuses from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. But most importantly of all, no more excuses from my colleagues on this side of the aisle. We have had a tumultuous year of sorts, but in the eyes of the American people, they've been watching from afar, wondering when this body, the People's House, will stand up in defense of the people who send us here. When are we going to do what we said we would do? When are we going to stand athwart and stop the reckless spending that is bankrupting a country that can no longer issue debt without having Moody's downgrade our rating, without having a treasury auction that is a borderline failure just last week because the people around the world no longer believe in American debt? Because we are now spending so much money and we have so much debt. We have more debt than we've ever had in the history of mankind. We have more debt than we had at the end of World War II after we exercised wars in 2 theaters to free this world of tyranny. And if we have to exercise our defense against foreign enemies today, and we have to ratchet up more spending to defend not just our country, but to defend the very freedoms under which we operate, we don't have the resources to do it. We don't have the supply chains to do it because we're sitting around here twiddling, talking about setting up offices of equity. That's what we're doing. And my colleagues on this side of the aisle utterly refuse to actually do what they say they do when they're going to go campaign against critical race theory and diversity, equity, inclusion, and campaign against Mayorkas and campaign against open borders. And what do? They come into this chamber and they vote down amendment after amendment after amendment to cut spending and to stop funding the very bureaucrats that are undermining the freedom of this country. We have an administration that is at war with the people of the United States, nothing less. The current administration is undermining the prosperity of the American people, and they're doing it on a daily basis. The current administration, the Biden administration, is undermining our ability to defend ourselves under the Second Amendment, undermining our ability to carry out our free speech rights and our First Amendment rights, undermining our ability to live free from crime and free from the danger of dangerous cartels and dangerous gangs flooding across the southern border of the United States. Every single day, another Texan dies from fentanyl poisoning. Every single day, another Texan dies, like last week, 2 Texans, 2 Hispanic Texans who died tragically in a car accident when you had an illegal immigrant moving people across our border into Texas. And you had somebody who was human smuggling, who was speeding and killed these 2 American citizens. When is this going to stop? When are my Republican colleagues going to put up or shut up? We have bills voting down impeaching Alejandro Mayorkas. They go down. We have bills trying to cut spending, and we have games being played by appropriators right here. Sitting in the Rules Committee night before last, I had appropriators looking at me and talking about the side deals that were cut to keep spending money, to set up funds in slush funds. That's the way this town operates. Slush funds, backroom deals, continuing to spend money we don't have. I am sick and tired of it. I didn't come here for second place. I didn't come here for more excuses. I didn't come here to have the Speaker of the House assume the position and in 17 days pass a continuing resolution off the floor of this House through suspension of the rules. $400 billion, including an extension of the Farm Bill that doesn't do anything about the Chinese Communist Party ownership of our lands. Doesn't do anything to protect small ag and to protect small ranchers from big ag and all of the big corporate adventures getting rich based on the policies from this body. When is it going to be enough? Is $34 trillion of debt not enough? $2 trillion deficits not enough? Another American dying from fentanyl or from cartels? Terrorists coming across our southern border, not enough? Are babies being put in ovens in Israel? Not enough. We have the Senate yesterday who chose expansion of the Internal Revenue Service over standing with Israel. And what are my Republican colleagues doing? They are all too happy to have this vote go down today and get on their airplanes and go home for turkey at Thanksgiving. Why aren't we putting another bill on the floor of the House right now and sending it over to the Senate to shove it down their throats, to say that we Republicans stand for cutting spending? We Republicans stand for standing with Israel. We Republicans stand for securing the border of the United States. No. Let's just go back and go raise some money so we can do more fundraisers, so we can then try to get elected, so we can come back here and offer more excuses for why we don't get the job done. You know what the excuse will be next year? Oh, well, we won the House and we won the Senate, if we could even do that, but we don't have 60 in the Senate, Chip. We can't do what you want to do because we don't have 60 votes in the Senate. I've heard nothing but excuses for the 20 years that I've either been a staffer in this town, back in Texas watching it closely, or now back as a member. Nothing but excuses. Nothing but empty promises. And the time for those excuses is over. Today we took down a rule. Yes, because it was a closed rule. We had a closed rule, which means you can't amend it. The Rules Committee put forward a bill for Iran to go, quote, freeze the $6 billion sitting in Qatar through a closed rule. We were not allowed to amend it. Such is the way things operate in the people's house if we don't police it every single day. We changed things in January. We've been opening the place up, but that was a reversion right back to the mean. You can't amend it, little boy. You're just a backbencher. You know what? Yes, we will. We will force amendments because we had a better approach than a simple freezing of the $6 billion. You know what we wanted to do? We wanted to tell Iran, no more. We're going to force the administration to stop issuing waivers to sanctions against Iran so we can stop the enrichment of Iran at the expense of Israel and at the expense of our own national security. Just yesterday, another $10 billion of waivers, $10 billion of waivers for Iran to sell electricity to Iraq. We are enriching Iran to be at war with us. We are enriching Iran to fund the killing of Jews in Israel. And yet Republicans just whistle by. Just say, oh, let's just issue a little bill. Let's just do $6 billion of freezing these assets in Qatar. Why don't you stop the actual blood money? Why don't you actually stand up and stop Iran from making billions of dollars giving oil to China? We talk a big game about Ukraine. We wear our little blue and yellow pins. Look at us. Look how compassionate we are to help people. Well, what the hell are we actually doing? Blank checks to Ukraine to go into the pockets of oligarchs, massive corruption, all getting documented by the day. We sent a bill over to the Senate. Democrats kill it because they'd rather side with the IRS than Israel. And we can't even move a bill to hip check the Iranians who want to kill us and exterminate the Jews in Israel. They don't hide behind it. They don't shy away from it. They openly say it. And here we are, and I'm in an empty chamber because everybody wants to go home and have their turkey, and we haven't done anything. Literally, the House Republican majority, what we've accomplished this year is the following. We have increased the debt of the United States $4 to $6 trillion. We don't actually know the amount because we set a date to January of 2025 with skyrocketing interest rates. So it's going to be a $4 to $6 trillion increase in your debt. Check. What else have we done? Well, we've passed 2 continuing resolutions of the Nancy Pelosi spending bills and priorities. Something to the tune of probably about $600 or $700 billion worth of spending when you add the farm bill into it. That's what we've done. That's what the Republican majority has done. When are we going to act like a Republican majority and start fighting? When are we going to do anything to truly cut spending instead of playing games? Yes, we've passed 7 appropriations bills. Yes, we've adopted some cuts, and I'm proud of those cuts. Yes, we've adopted some strong policies in the NDAA and passing H.R. 2, the border security bill. But all of that is a tree falling in the forest if we are unwilling to lock arms and fight. It does you no good to get all your ammunition ready and get all prettied up and get in the boats, and when you get to the beaches in Normandy, say, sorry, I don't think we can climb the cliffs because now's not the right time. When is the right time? Because nobody's going to just stand up one day and say, guess what, boys, it's June 6th. It's time to get up and fight. Because right now, all I'm hearing is excuses. All I'm hearing are reasons why we can't do what we campaign on doing. We can't have a shutdown. Okay, well then why don't you just take your voting card, walk over to the other side of the aisle and say, thank you, sir, may I have another? Because that's what we're doing. If we don't stand up and say, there's going to be a moment where we're going to say, we're sorry, you don't get to use taxpayer dollars, and more importantly, borrowed money, to continue to stick it to the American people every day with open borders, dangerous communities, skyrocketing interest rates, skyrocketing inflation, an inability to educate your children without them being indoctrinated, an inability to have a job without being told you got to get a vaccine, an inability to have your business open during a pandemic because a bunch of tyrants shut your livelihood down, and now we do nothing about it, an inability to have a national defense that isn't woke and focused on, diversity, equity, inclusion, and transgender surgeries and abortion tourism, rather than actually killing people and blowing things up, which is what the military is supposed to be trained to do. What in the hell are we doing in this chamber?